Welcome to my YouTube channel, HFY You love epic sci-fi and humans or special stories? Then you're in the right place. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. The wind howled like a beast across the frozen land. The night sky was covered with black clouds, and the snow never stopped falling. The ground shook under every gust of storm, and the air was sharp like knives. This world was cold, empty, and cruel. But a single man kept walking forward, his boots sinking deep into the white wasteland. His name was Marcus, a human explorer. He had been sent here by his small ship to search for minerals. But now he was trapped in the storm. The ship was far behind, and he had little food left. Every step was heavy, and the cold bit into his bones. Still, he kept moving, because stopping meant death. Through the storm he heard something strange. At first, he thought it was only the wind playing tricks on his mind. But then he heard it again. A sound, weak and broken, almost like a cry. Marcus froze, his heart beating faster. No animal should be out here in this weather. So what was that sound? He pushed forward, fighting the snow. The sound grew louder. Two voices, faint and trembling. He reached a small hollow in the snow, almost hidden by the blizzard. And there, half buried in the ice, he saw them. Two figures, small and fragile, lying side by side. Their skin glowed faintly, a pale silver light shining through the snow. Their clothes were torn, their lips blue from the cold. They were alive, but only barely. Marcus knelt down, brushing snow from their faces. They were not human. He could see that at once. Their features were sharper, their eyes larger even though they were closed. One had hair as white as the snow, the other as black as the night sky. Sisters, he thought at once, because they looked alike, and both were dying. He hesitated for a moment. He had been warned never to interfere with locals on strange worlds. It could mean trouble, danger, or even death. But as he looked at the two sisters shivering, skin pale, lips whispering for help, his heart made the choice for him. He pulled off his heavy coat and wrapped it around them. "Stay with me," he whispered. Even though he knew they might not understand, he lifted the elder one first, then the younger. They were light, too light, as if the snow had already taken their strength away. Step by step, Marcus carried them through the storm. The weight slowed him down, and the wind tried to push him back. But he refused to let go. Every time he stumbled, he thought of their faint voices, begging for life, and he pushed forward again. At last, he found a small cave in the side of a frozen cliff. It was not much, but it was shelter from the storm. He laid the sisters gently on the ground, their breaths shallow, their hands cold as ice. Quickly, he started a fire with the little fuel he had left. The flames flickered weakly, but it was enough to bring warmth into the cave. Marcus wrapped them tighter in blankets and held their hands close to the fire. Slowly, very slowly, he saw color return to their faces. The elder sister's lips moved first, whispering something in a language he did not know. The younger one opened her eyes halfway, silver blue eyes staring right at him. For a moment, Marcus felt as if the storm outside had gone silent. They were alive, but they were not ordinary. Their skin glowed faintly, like light trapped beneath the surface. He had never seen anything like it. Marcus leaned back against the cave wall, exhausted. He told himself he would only stay until the storm ended. He told himself saving them was the right thing. Nothing more, but in his heart he knew. Nothing about this was simple. By picking them up from the snow, he had stepped into something far larger than himself. Outside, the storm raged on, but beneath the howling wind, Marcus heard another sound, a heavy, deep rumble, far away but growing closer. Something ancient was moving under the ice, something that had felt the sisters' awakening. Marcus did not know it yet, but his life had just changed forever. Two alien sisters were alive because of him. And somewhere in the storm, unseen eyes were watching. The night was no longer only snow and silence. It was the beginning of a story that would shake the galaxy. The fire burned weakly inside the cave, sending orange light across the stone walls. The storm outside roared louder, like the world itself was angry. But inside, Marcus sat beside the two sisters, watching their fragile breaths rise and fall. He had wrapped them in blankets, given them heat, even rubbed their hands to bring life back into them. Still, their survival was uncertain. Marcus leaned forward, listening. The elder one stirred first, her lips moving, whispering strange words in a voice soft and broken. Marcus shook his head. He could not understand. But when her eyes opened, glowing faint silver, he felt something heavy in his chest. It was as if her gaze carried a weight older than the stars. The younger one gasped and turned, her eyes opening wide, blue-silver, bright and sharp. They locked on Marcus. She coughed weakly, her voice trembling as she tried to speak. At first, only sounds came out, but slowly she shaped words in broken common tongue. "You saved us," she whispered. Marcus blinked in surprise. Most alien races he had met struggled with human speech, yet her words carried meaning. "Yes," Marcus said softly. "You were freezing out there." The younger sister stared, her lips trembling before a faint smile crossed her face. The elder, still weak, turned her head to Marcus and spoke, her voice calm but heavy. "Why? Why did you help us?" Marcus had no answer, not one he could explain. He only said, "Because you would have died." The elder studied him with eyes like moonlight. For a moment, silence filled the cave, broken only by the crackle of fire. Then the younger one whispered, "Lyra," tapping her chest, her voice faint but proud. "Her name," she pointed to her sister. "Sora," Marcus repeated softly. "Lyra, Sora." The sisters exchanged a glance, as if speaking without words. Marcus could not tell what passed between them, but he felt a strange pull in the air. The fire grew dim, the last of Marcus's fuel almost gone. He cursed under his breath. The cave would soon fall into cold again. But then something strange happened. Lyra, the elder, lifted her trembling hand toward the flame. Her silver eyes glowed brighter, and the fire suddenly grew strong. Tall, alive, Marcus's mouth fell open. He had never seen fire react like that. Sora giggled softly, weak but playful, and stretched her hand forward, too. The air turned icy cold around her fingers. Frost crawling across the stones, the fire hissed, sparks jumping as cold and heat clashed together. Marcus stepped back in shock. "You? What are you?" he asked in disbelief. Lyra looked down, shame flickering across her pale face. "We are hunted," she whispered. "Our power is forbidden. Our family destroyed." Sora leaned closer to Marcus, her eyes glimmering with mischief even through her weakness. "But you touched us. You carried us. That means you are part of our fate now." Marcus shook his head quickly. "I don't even know you. I only saved your lives." But the sisters looked at him with eyes too old, too certain, as if they already knew something he did not. Before Marcus could ask more, a noise outside broke the moment. A low growl, deep and hungry, carried through the storm. Then another, closer, joined by scraping claws across stone. Marcus's hand went to his plasma pistol at once, his heart racing, predators drawn by the smell of fire and weakness. The growls grew louder. Shadows moved at the cave's mouth. Eyes glowed in the darkness. 3, then 5, then more. The storm had hidden them, but now hunger had driven them to the humans' fragile shelter. Marcus raised his pistol, the weapon small, its charge low. He cursed again. One shot might kill one beast, but there were too many. The first creature stepped into the firelight, tall, wolf-like, its body covered with icy spines. Its jaws opened wide, dripping frozen saliva, a hiss rising from its throat. Behind it, more came, crowding the entrance, waiting for blood. Marcus steadied his weapon, fear biting at him. He had fought many things in his travels, but never beasts like these. One wrong move and the sisters would die. Suddenly, Sora pushed herself up, her body trembling but her eyes sharp. "No," she whispered, her hands glowing with blue frost. Before Marcus could stop her, she raised both arms, and a wave of freezing wind blasted forward. The first beast froze mid-step. Its body turned to solid ice in an instant. The others shrieked, backing away as frost spread across the cave floor. Then Lyra's voice rang out, low and firm. Her hands rose, fire bursting from her palms, bright and furious. The frozen beast shattered under the sudden heat, flames racing toward the others. The predators howled in terror, scrambling into the storm, their glowing eyes vanishing one by one. Silence returned, broken only by the crackle of flame and the faint dripping of melted ice. Marcus lowered his pistol slowly, staring at the sisters in shock. He had thought them weak, dying in the snow, but here they were, fire and ice in the same breath, alive, dangerous, and now bound to him. Sora leaned back against the cave wall, laughing softly, her breath fogging in the cold air. "You see, human," she whispered, "you cannot leave us now." Lyra's gaze was steady, heavy with meaning. "You are part of this," she said, "whether you wish it or not." Marcus sat in silence, the weight of their words pressing on him. He had come here only as an explorer, a wanderer, nothing more. But the galaxy had just shifted around him. Two sisters with Forbidden's power had lived because of him, and now their fate and his own were tangled together. Outside, the storm still roared, but now Marcus knew the real danger was not the cold. It was the choice he had made, and the fire that had awakened inside this cave would not go out again. The cave was silent again, but Marcus's heart would not slow down. The memory of the beast still burned in his mind. The way Sora had frozen one with a single glance, the way Lyra had turned fire into a weapon. He had seen strange things across the stars, but nothing like this. Not two sisters with the power of opposite elements, fire and ice, life and death. It was impossible, and yet he had seen it with his own eyes. Marcus sat by the fire, his plasma pistol resting on his knee. The sisters lay close to the warmth, their breathing steady now, their eyes watching him carefully. Sora tilted her head, her silver blue eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. "You are afraid," she whispered, almost teasing. Marcus shook his head, though his hand still gripped the weapon. "I am not afraid," he said firmly. "I just do not understand." Lyra's gaze was calmer, older, her voice steady but heavy. "You saved us, and that cannot be undone," she said. "You are part of our fate now." Marcus frowned. "I only wanted to keep you alive." But the sisters exchanged a look, silent but full of meaning, and Marcus knew they believed something deeper, something he was not ready to face. The storm outside slowly began to fade, but a new tension grew inside the cave. Every flicker of the fire cast shadows that seemed to whisper secrets Marcus could not hear. Finally, he broke the silence, his voice low. "Tell me the truth. Who are you really?" Sora smiled, her face still pale from weakness, but her eyes alive with mischief. "We are princesses," she whispered. "Or we were. Before our home was destroyed," Lyra's expression darkened, her words cutting like blades. "Our clan was feared, our family hunted. Because of what we are." Marcus leaned forward, confused. "Because of your powers?" Lyra nodded slowly, her silver eyes glowing brighter. "Fire and frost," she said softly, "together in blood. It is Forbidden's." The words lingered in the air. Marcus understood now. They were exiles, survivors of something terrible. The galaxy was full of laws, empires, and traditions. And he knew well how fear could turn to hate. But still, he felt something more in their voices. Not only sorrow, but danger. He had stepped into a story far bigger than his own. Sora leaned closer, her voice playful but sharp. "And now you are part of it. Human." Marcus narrowed his eyes. "How?" She smiled and tapped her chest, then his shoulder. "You carried us in the storm. You gave us life. The bond cannot be broken. Marcus laughed bitterly. That's not how humans work. But Sora only smirked, her eyes glimmering like ice. Maybe not for humans, she whispered. But for us. Marcus turned to Lyra for answers, but she did not smile. Instead, she said quietly, the bond is real. Whether you accept it or not, you are bound to our destiny. Marcus stared at them both, his mind struggling to make sense of it. A human explorer, alone on a frozen planet, suddenly tied to alien princesses with forbidden power. It sounded insane, and yet he could not deny the truth burning in their eyes. Before Marcus could argue more, the cave trembled. A low vibration rolled through the ground, shaking loose snow from the ceiling. The sisters froze, their faces pale. They are here, Lyra whispered, her voice tight with fear. Marcus stood at once, pistol in hand. Who? Sora answered, her voice trembling for the first time. The hunters. A shadow passed across the cave mouth, blocking what little light remained outside. Figures moved through the snow, tall, armored, carrying weapons that glowed with alien energy. Their voices echoed harshly, speaking in a tongue Marcus did not understand, but the meaning was clear enough. They were searching, hunting, closing in. Marcus backed toward the sisters, his heart pounding. Stay behind me, he said, though his weapon was almost out of charge. Sora gave a sharp laugh, even in fear. Behind you? You should stay behind us. Her hands glowed faint blue again, frost forming across the stones. Lyra's palms flickered with sparks of fire, her eyes narrowing, the cave filled with light. Half burning red, half freezing blue, the armored soldiers stepped inside, their leader raising a long staff that hummed with power. His voice was cold as ice. Give them to us, human, and you may live. Marcus raised his pistol, his jaw tight. I don't know who you are, but if you want them, you'll have to go through me. The soldiers laughed, their metal masks glowing in the firelight. A single human thinks he can stand against us? The leader sneered, but before Marcus could answer, Sora whispered in his ear. Watch! The cave exploded in light. Fire and frost striking together as the sisters unleashed their power. The soldiers were thrown back, weapons frozen and shattered, armor burning red hot. The storm outside howled louder, as if answering their call. Marcus stood frozen, his pistol forgotten. This was not survival anymore, not chance, not accident. This was power beyond reason, beyond fear, beyond control. The sisters stood side by side, their eyes glowing like stars, and Marcus knew, with chilling certainty, that his life was no longer his own. He had become part of their war, and the galaxy would never forgive him for it. The cave smelled of smoke and frost. Broken armor and burned flesh scattered across the floor. The storm outside had begun to ease, but inside the air was still heavy with the memory of battle. Marcus stood with his back against the wall, his pistol lowered, his eyes locked on the two sisters. They stood tall now, no longer weak or dying, but alive with dangerous energy. Fire burned in Lyra's silver eyes, while frost shimmered across Sora's blue ones. They had fought like warriors, like forces of nature, and Marcus had seen the truth. These were not helpless strangers anymore. They were something much greater. The bodies of the hunters smoked at the cave entrance, their leader's staff cracked and glowing with dying sparks. Marcus could still hear his last words echoing. You cannot protect them, human. They belong to us. Even in death, the words carried weight, a warning Marcus could not ignore. He turned to the sisters, his voice low. Why are they after you? Lyra lowered her head, her expression heavy with sorrow. We carry the blood of a broken throne, she whispered. Our people were divided, our family destroyed. Because of what we are, Sora added, her tone sharper. They fear us, so they hunt us. Marcus narrowed his eyes. And now they will come after me too. The sisters said nothing, but their silence was the answer. The fire crackled, filling the cave with uneasy light. Marcus pressed a hand against his forehead, trying to think. He had not planned for this. He was only an explorer, a man with a small ship and simple missions. But now he was tangled in a war he did not understand, with enemies stronger than he had ever faced. And yet, when he looked at the sisters, he felt the choice already made. He could not abandon them. Not now, not after what he had seen. Sora smiled faintly, reading his silence. "You could leave, you know," she said softly, her voice playful but testing. "You could walk away, pretend you never found us, and live your life in peace." Marcus shook his head slowly, his voice firm. "No, I couldn't." Lyra's eyes softened, her voice warm, though her words were grave. "Then you will share our burden." The decision hung heavy in the air. Marcus had chosen loyalty, even if it meant death, and the sisters, for the first time, seemed at ease in his presence. They were no longer strangers bound by chance. They were allies bound by survival. But peace did not last long. The storm outside quieted enough for Marcus to hear something new. The distant thrum of engines, mechanical, heavy. Not beasts this time, but machines. He crawled to the cave mouth, peering into the snowy night. On the horizon, lights glowed through the mist, cold and sharp. War machines, tall as towers, moving across the frozen plains, and behind them, more soldiers, endless rows marching with purpose. Marcus cursed under his breath. "They're bringing an army." Lyra's eyes darkened, her fists tightening. "They will never stop," she said. "Not until we are dead or enslaved." Sora laughed bitterly, her voice shaking but strong. "Then let them try." Marcus turned back to them, frustration boiling in his chest. "We can't fight an army." "Not like this." Lyra nodded, her voice calm. "Then we must run." "Run where?" Marcus demanded. "This planet is nothing but ice and storms." Sora leaned closer, her lips curling into a secretive smile. "Not nothing," she whispered. "There is a place, buried under the snow, where the hunters cannot follow." Marcus frowned. "What place?" Lyra lifted her hand, pointing toward the north, her finger steady. "The city of our ancestors," she said softly. "The place where our power was born." Sora's eyes glimmered with excitement. "And where it waits for us still." Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. An ancient city buried in ice, tied to powers forbidden by the galaxy. It sounded like madness. Yet the certainty in their voices made him believe. If the answers lay anywhere, they would be there. But the journey would not be simple. The sound of engines grew louder, the lights on the horizon drawing closer. Marcus stood tall, gripping his pistol, though it felt useless against such numbers. "We move now," he said, "before they surround us." The sisters rose together, their steps slow but steady. They were still weak from the storm, but their power glowed brighter than before. For the first time, they walked beside him not as strangers he had saved, but as equals. The three of them left the cave and stepped into the snow. The storm had quieted, the sky opening to reveal faint stars above, but the peace of the night was broken by the distant roar of war machines. Their journey had only begun, and already the galaxy was closing in. Marcus glanced at the sisters, their eyes fixed on the northern horizon. For a moment, he wondered what fate had placed them in his path. Two alien princesses, hunted and broken, now bound to a human by chance and choice. And as they vanished into the night, he knew the next step would decide everything behind them. The glow of approaching soldiers lit the horizon red. Ahead of them, buried in ice, waited a city of secrets. And somewhere deep in Marcus's chest, a voice whispered the truth he did not want to hear. This was no rescue anymore. No accident, no mistake. This was destiny. The campfire burned low in the cave, giving a soft orange glow. Snow fell hard outside, and the storm's howling wind mixed with the crackle of fire. The two alien sisters sat close to the human, one on each side, their eyes fixed on him. They were safe, warm, and alive because of him, and their hearts now belonged to him. But safety never lasts for long in a dangerous world. As the storm began to fade, a new sound echoed across the frozen mountains. A horn, long and deep, shaking the stones of the cave walls. The human froze. His sisters tensed. They knew that sound. It was not the storm, not the walls, but something worse. The elder sister whispered, her voice shaking. They found us. The hunters. Her younger sister clutched his arm tightly, her claws digging into his sleeve. They will take us away. They will kill you. The human stood up, pulling his old rifle into his hands. He had no fear in his eyes, only fire. Then let them try, he said, his voice low but strong. Moments later, shadows appeared outside the cave, tall figures wrapped in heavy black armor, glowing blue lines across their weapons. Their steps crushed the snow as if they owned the land. At the front stood one figure taller than the rest. His helmet bore the mark of a rival clan, the one who ruled these mountains with fear. The leader stepped forward, his voice loud and full of pride. So this is where the runaways hide, he said, staring at the sisters. And the human they cling to, he laughed. A cold, cruel laugh, pathetic, weak creature. Do you think you can keep what belongs to us? The human raised his rifle, not lowering his gaze. They don't belong to you, he said firmly. The sisters stood behind him, trembling but refusing to step away. The younger one whispered, he will kill you. But the elder added, no. Watch him. The rival leader drew a massive blade that shimmered with alien fire. I will take their lives. And yours too, he promised. The hunters raised their weapons, ready to charge. The human took a deep breath, feeling the snow-chilled air cut his lungs. He was outnumbered, outgunned, but his spirit was steel. He turned his head slightly, speaking to the sisters without looking away from the enemy. Stay behind me. No matter what happens. The sisters nodded, their eyes wide with both fear and hope. They could feel it. Something powerful inside this human was about to rise. The rival laughed again, lifting his blade. But before he could give the order to attack, the earth itself seemed to rumble. The human stepped forward into the snow, his rifle steady. The storm cleared enough for the moonlight to touch his face. He was calm, too calm for a man about to fight an army. The rival leader narrowed his eyes. Why do you smile, human? The human's answer was simple. Because I've been waiting for this. The hunters roared, charging forward. Snow burst into the air as boots thundered across the ground. The sisters screamed his name, and the human met the charge head-on, his rifle flashing with fire and fury. The battle for survival had begun. And in that frozen night, the galaxy itself would learn that humans were not prey. They were predators, and this one was ready to kill gods. Snow exploded in the night as the hunters stormed forward. The cave shook with their battle cries, the frozen ground trembling under their boots. The alien leader raised his burning blade high, ready to cut down the human in a single strike. But the human moved first. His rifle thundered, fire and smoke filling the icy air. The first hunter dropped, then the second, their armor sparking and cracking. The sisters gasped, clutching each other as they watched. They had seen men fight before, but never like this. The human fought as if death itself was nothing but a shadow behind him. Every step, every shot was sharp, fearless. He did not retreat, he advanced, pushing the hunters back with raw courage. The rival leader roared in fury, swinging his massive blade. The human ducked under it, snow spraying as the weapon split the ground. The human drove his shoulder into the alien's chest, forcing him back a step. The hunters hesitated. This was not the weak prey they expected. This was something else, something terrifying. But numbers never lie. One hunter struck from the side, his spear slicing across the human's arm. Blood splattered on the snow, steaming in the cold. The sisters screamed his name. The human gritted his teeth, but did not fall. He swung his rifle like a club, shattering the spear in half. Then he fired point blank, dropping the hunter where he stood. The rival leader laughed darkly. You bleed, human, and soon you will die. But the human only smiled through the pain. Then I'll die standing, he said, his voice sharp as steel. The younger sister tried to run forward, but the elder pulled her back. No. He fights for us, she whispered. Her heart pounded as she watched. She could feel it. The human spirit was stronger than any weapon in the galaxy. The hunters circled him now. 5 against 1, they struck from every side, blades and spears flashing in the moonlight. The human moved like lightning, blocking, dodging, firing. His rifle cracked until it clicked empty. Without hesitation, he swung it like a staff, breaking helmets and crushing throats. The ground became stained with blood and fire. The air filled with the screams of the dying. The sisters trembled, tears in their eyes. But their fear was not of the hunters. It was of losing him. They had never seen anyone fight so hard, risk so much, and he was doing it all for them. Finally, the rival leader charged again, his burning blade cutting arcs through the air. The human caught the strike on the broken frame of his rifle. Sparks flying, the force knocked him to one knee. His muscles straining, the leader pushed harder, laughing, "You are finished, human." But the human looked up at him, blood on his face, and whispered, "Not yet." With a roar, he twisted the rifle, breaking the alien's balance. Then he grabbed a fallen spear and drove it deep into the leader's side. The alien howled, stumbling back. The hunters froze in shock as their commander bled into the snow. The human rose to his feet, chest heaving, his eyes burned with fury. "Who's next?" he shouted, his voice echoing across the mountains. For the first time, the hunters hesitated. They looked at their leader, then at the human, and for the first time in their lives, they felt fear. The sisters ran to his side, holding him up as blood dripped from his wounds. He could barely stand, but his spirit stood taller than any of them. The elder sister whispered, "You should be dead," the younger added, her voice shaking. "But you fight like the stars are inside you?" The rival leader staggered, his eyes burning with hate. "This is not over, human," he spat. "You have won tonight, but I will return, and when I do, not even the stars will save you." With a signal, the hunters dragged their wounded commander away into the snow. The human collapsed against the sisters, his strength fading, but his eyes never left the enemy's retreating forms. This battle was over, but the war had only begun. The storm had passed, but the night was still sharp and cold. The fire inside the cave burned low, throwing shadows against the stone walls. The human lay against the rock, his wounds wrapped with strips of cloth torn from his own coat. The sisters sat close on either side, guarding him like 2 wolves, guarding their only pack. For the first time since the night began, there was silence. Only the wind outside whispered through the snow. The younger sister pressed her forehead to his chest, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You should have died. You bled for us," she whispered. The elder sister touched his face gently, her voice soft but steady. "You fought armies alone, human. You are not like the others. You are something more." The human closed his eyes, tired but not broken. "I only did what was right," he said. "You were freezing, hunted, left to die in the snow. I couldn't just walk away." The sisters looked at him, and then at each other. For so long, their world had been cruel, filled with enemies and betrayal. But this man, this strange human, had changed everything. He had risked his life without asking for reward, and now both their hearts burned for him. But before they could speak, a sound shook the cave, a deep rumble. Heavy and growing louder, the human sat up despite his pain, his eyes narrowing. "It's not over," he muttered. The sisters stiffened, fear flashing in their eyes. The rival had returned, and this time he did not come alone. Outside the cave, lights moved through the snow, dozens of them, an army of hunters, their armor glowing like cold fire in the night. And at the front, the rival leader stood tall, his wound still bandaged, his burning blade raised high. "I promised I would return," he shouted, his voice echoing through the mountains. "And this time, not even your courage will save you. The human pushed himself to his feet. Swaying but unbroken, the sisters grabbed his arms, pleading. "You can't fight them, not again," the younger cried. "They will kill you," said the elder, her voice trembling for the first time. But the human only smiled, blood on his lips. "Then let them try," he said again. His spirit was steel-tired, wounded but unshaken. The rival gave the order, and the hunters moved in like a black tide. Snow crunched under 100 boots. Weapons gleaming in the pale moonlight, the sisters clung to the human, their hearts torn between love and fear. They wanted to fight with him, to die with him, if they had to. But he stepped forward, raising his hand, stopping them. "No," he said, "this is my fight." And then it happened. The ground shook, the mountains roared, the storm above split open with thunder. The human's presence seemed to grow larger, heavier, as if the world itself recognized him. The hunters slowed, fear crawling into their bones. The rival shouted at them to advance, but even his voice trembled. The sisters gasped, their eyes wide. They could see it. Something in the human spirit was not normal. His eyes burned like fire, his breath steaming like smoke from a forge. He was no ordinary man. He was something ancient, something the galaxy had long forgotten. The human charged forward, a roar ripping from his throat. He grabbed weapons from the fallen, striking with strength beyond reason. The hunters fell one by one, their cries lost in the storm. The rival met him in a final clash, their blades and fists shaking the mountain itself. Sparks flew, snow melted under their fury. The sisters screamed his name, praying, begging, and at last the rival fell. His burning blade shattered, his body broken in the snow. Silence. The hunters froze, their courage shattered like glass. Without their leader, they fled into the night, leaving only footprints and fear behind. The human stood in the snow, his chest heaving, his body bleeding, but he was alive. The sisters ran to him, holding him up, tears falling like the snow around them. "You fought the stars themselves," whispered the elder. "You are ours now," said the younger, pressing her head against him. The human looked at them both, exhausted but smiling. "You are never mine to claim," he said softly. "You are free now, free to choose." And in that moment, under the cold stars, both sisters chose him, not out of need, not out of fear, but out of love. For in the frozen wilderness of a cruel galaxy, they had found the one soul who would burn against the darkness, a human who fought like no other, a man who would never let go. The fire burned higher, the snow fell softer, and for the first time, the sisters believed in tomorrow.